What is going on, everybody? It is Spider-Man week, but WB clearly didn't get the memo, and they decided to release a brand new trailer for the Batman on a random Sunday at like 6 p.m. Now, the thing about this trailer is that, first of all, it was only released by the Japanese WB account, which is funny because no other account has acknowledged this trailer or posted anything about it, so it's only on that one. And the second thing is that most of it is old footage, but there's like 20 seconds of new footage, and that new stuff is really, really good. Now, this past month has been a pretty good time to be a Batman fan because we got some nice crumbs here and there. We got the leak of the Batman Funko Pop, where it's like a pop ride, I think it's called, where we see Robert Pattinson's Batman in a Batmobile. So, me being the addict that I am, I'm gonna buy way too many of those Funko Pops. Second cool thing that we got is that we saw a brand new poster in the cinema for the Batman, like a 3D like cardboard one, and it's essentially the last shot of the Batman trailer from DC fandom this year. But on the bottom is a really cool Riddler riddle, and because there are real life Batman out there, they already translated it, and it essentially translates to something along the lines of "You are a winged rat," which is just Riddler poking fun at Batman, which is pretty fun. But we've got some nice crumbs here and there. This definitely takes the cake because there's some crazy stuff in here. Now, normally, I start at the beginning of the trailer and go to the end because, logic. But the last scene of this trailer is really interesting and it affects everything else. So we're going to start there. Now, if you look at this scene, you'll notice it's very familiar first. We see that scene where Batman is going to Arkham Asylum to talk to the Riddler because he's finally been captured by the GCPD and Batman wants answers. But there, Riddler tells him, "Oh, I've been trying to reach you," hinting at the idea Riddler let himself be captured because he wanted a way to speak to Batman face to face without being punched in the face, which we see happens probably later in the movie. Anyways, he talks to Batman here, and what's different in this trailer is that it cuts to another scene of Bruce Wayne taking off his cowl, and Riddler says, "Bruce Wayne," essentially hinting at the fact that Riddler knows that Batman and Bruce Wayne are the same thing. Now, obviously, these two scenes aren't the same thing side by side, but it essentially hints at the idea, and I think is a true idea, that Riddler does know that Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same person, because later in the trailer, well, more to actually the beginning of the trailer, we see all these hints, and even hints in the DC fandom teaser trailer and the trailer from this year, we get that sense that Riddler knows more about Batman than the general public does, because he says, "Oh, you're part of this too, you'll see," essentially hinting that he knows Batman's secret identity. Now, this is really important because it ties to this whole conspiracy of corruption and crime in Gotham, possibly leading back to the Waynes. And also is interesting because it plays into the dynamic that I'm really excited to see in the movie. That being that Batman is racing to capture the Riddler, one, because he's a criminal, but also because he most likely knows who Bruce Wayne is. So then if we go back to the beginning of the trailer, we actually get our first look at the Riddler's hideout. And it looks super cool. We see all these tools around the place. You can see him building traps. But the main thing, actually two main things. One, we can also see the Riddler's logo in the back, which we've seen on his henchmen. We've seen it in some of his crimes. That Riddler logo is all over the place and it looks great. But the actual terrifying thing is at the right, we see this sort of contraption, which any normal person might not even acknowledge it, might not even realize it's anything. But if you've read some of the leaks that came out of the press screenings that some people have been lucky enough to see the Batman early, you'll know that someone described a scene where Riddler hooks up a victim to this contraption that allows hungry rats to burrow into them and eat them. Yeah. Now, despite this, I still stand by the fact that I think this movie is going to be PG-13. That being just because Matt Reeves has been so careful in the past movies that he always walks right up to the line between PG-13 movies and rated R movies. He doesn't cross over, but he gets right comfy right up next to it. So this movie I still think will be PG-13 because I would be shocked if a Batman movie wasn't, especially with all the marketing they're putting into this already. But I think that this scene will definitely be gruesome and that all the Riddler traps will be very Saw-like, and I don't think it'll be censored almost like Venom was, but they're definitely going to tread the line. And I'm really intrigued. I'm kind of horrified at the idea because I'm like, one, it's super cool to like see Riddler be terrifying, but also do I want to see rats eat people alive? I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no tentatively, but I'm still really excited. I cannot wait to see how freaky Riddler is in this movie. But then we get the best shot of the trailer, the really, really interesting one, and we see this poster board of all these different newspaper clippings. So, starting off, we see a lot of photos of Bruce Wayne, and in all of them, all of his eyes are crossed out, thus making him blind. And one of the main phrases that Riddler says in these trailers is, "What is the price for your blind eye?" Thus being, what is the price of all the citizens of Gotham being blind to the corruption that's taking place in their city? And Bruce Wayne has definitely been one of the most blind, assuming that the Waynes were corrupt themselves and criminals, that Bruce Wayne is this rich person and he's trying to be Batman and be a force of good, but he's blind to the fact that his family is just built on criminals and built on crime and corruption and has a terrible, terrible history. But he's blind to that fact and actually views his family as good. And the Riddler's going to try to open up his eyes to that. Now, two other things. If you'll notice, on the bottom photo, I'm actually going to give a minor spoiler warning for this. I'll put it on a timestamp. You probably have heard of this by now, especially if you're watching this video. But on the bottom photo, we see what appears to be a photo of Bruce Wayne, but behind it is a very creepy smile. And that face lines up exactly like Barry Keoghan, forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but essentially the actor that is rumored to be playing the Joker. And let's be honest, he looks super Joker-like in this photo. Now, I'd be kind of shocked if they just put this footage in the trailer willy-nilly, but that looks like the Joker. I mean, I'm not even reaching here. Look, some of the things I dissect, I might reach sometimes. You cannot tell me you look at this photo and don't think that it looks like the Joker. Like, come on. So that's the first thing, especially because it looks like the actor who is rumored to be playing the Joker. Like, that seems like a lot of evidence. Now, the second thing is that it's this main idea that connects the rest of these photos. So, two big things. First, up top, we see orphanage promise fulfilled, and we also see Wayne for mayor. Now, these are two big ideas that are tying together because of the photos of the left. Now, in these photos, we see what appears to be an orphanage, and we see four critical people: Thomas and Martha Wayne, a young Bruce Wayne, and what appears to be a young Riddler. Because if you look, that same child who has the glasses is zoomed in on another photo and has the Riddler mark over his face, thus insinuating that's the Riddler. And actually, the photo of the boy, his eyes are crossed out, thus being blind. Now, with these all ideas together, this is what I think. Here's my theory. Thomas Wayne is running for mayor, but he wants to improve his standings in this election. So he builds this orphanage to say, hey, I'm trying to help the kids and bring in a better tomorrow. So his promise to make this orphanage is fulfilled. And the Riddler, he's all happy because he's one of these orphans that he thinks, oh my gosh, the Waynes are amazing. They're giving me a new home, food, shelter. I'm going to have a new, better life. But in the background, Thomas is only doing this to boost his standings as mayor. And two, I think what's going to happen is after he loses the race, or maybe he'll win, who knows, either way, he is going to have no incentive to put any more money into this orphanage, and it's become abandoned, and all the children are going to be either tormented or put in terrible conditions, and then Riddler is going to realize, wow, these people are false idols, they're not as great as I thought they were. And then, if you see, written over all these photos is a sentence, if I only knew then what I know now. Thus hinting at the fact that, as a kid, he looked up to the Waynes because, oh my God, they built me this orphanage, I have a home now. But then when he was an adult, he realized, no, they're not these great people, they were criminals. Thus being like, oh my God, I wish I was a kid, I wouldn't have idolized them. Now this is really cool because not only does it show us the Riddler's origin, but it shows a very personal connection between Riddler and Bruce Wayne. Because Bruce is oblivious to all this corruption, he's actually a good person, and I believe that Riddler thinks that. So he might even have a sort of brotherly love towards him, like, no, I get you. You came from all these corrupt people, but I want you to know that. I need you to accept that before you do anything else crazy, before you try to stop me, because we have the same idea. I honestly think that Riddler might not be trying to destroy Batman in this, and that could be part of the reason why he's not like telling the world his secret identity, because he maybe feels bad for Bruce or wants him to just realize the corruption that runs through his family, or make him realize how wrong he actually is. Now, there's also two other small things that I forgot to mention. I actually recorded this. This is the third time I recorded this. My camera has been very, very rude to me today. As I'm saying this, I'm really hoping it's recording. Just don't stop recording again. But essentially, we see Bruce Wayne at City Hall for critical talks, and we also see Wayne spotted, reclusive billionaire seen with mysterious woman. Now, first thing with the City Hall talks, we know one of the main inspirations for this movie is an older movie called Chinatown. Great movie. In that, actually starts with this whole like City Hall talk, with like trying to build this dam, and it doesn't seem important at first, but becomes really important later on in the movie. I think a similar idea could be taking place, that the city's trying to do something or build something, and it won't seem important right now, but then Bruce Wayne is going to be watching, and it's going to be realized later on in the film why that whole discussion is going to be important. I think that'd be a similar plot point that could be in this movie. The second thing is that we see that Wayne is spotted with a mysterious woman. I think we all can agree that's most likely Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, and they're going to be in public. And I actually think what's going to happen is that Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle are going to meet, then Catwoman and Batman are going to meet, then Catwoman is going to take off her mask in front of Batman, and Batman's going to realize, oh my god, they're the same person, and it's going to be a very interesting dynamic. Something we've seen in the comics multiple times. But regardless, a lot of fun stuff on this bulletin board. A lot of cool things about the Riddler's origins and possible plot points with the city, and just some cool hints with Selina Kyle and Bruce Wayne. Next up, we see a really cool scene which has some really great Riddler dialogue from Paul Dano. He sounds terrifying as always. And we hear him say, "I'm here to unmask the truth about this city." And over we see a photo of what appears to be the GCPD commissioner at the time. Now, this just goes back to the main idea of Riddler, where he is uncovering all the corruption that is ingrained in the city of Gotham in every single part. We know a GCPD show is on the way, and the main tagline of that show is, "There are no good cops," and thus being that everyone is corrupt in this city. So here we see what appears to be the police commissioner being corrupt, either handing a bribe to someone or just talking to a criminal, and thus Riddler wants to uncover all this corruption. And here's a small thing, we just see another shot of Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne at the funeral. He looks great. I still don't get how people think he doesn't look like Bruce Wayne, just look at the guy. But he actually looks very put together here, unlike most of the trailer where he's dirty and has makeup on his face. I think this will be one of the first times Bruce Wayne goes in public and actually looks like his normal self, or his billionaire playboy persona. But I think it looks great. I mean, he looks just like Bruce Wayne. Not much to say besides that fact. But then we get my favorite shot of this trailer, where we see Bruce Wayne at the funeral, and he looks up, and in the distance, he sees the Riddler. Now, this just goes more back to the idea of the relationship that Riddler and Batman are probably going to have in this movie. And it's that they're playing a sort of cat and mouse game, that Riddler keeps on watching Batman. He's been stalking him. He knows his identity, and he's 20 steps ahead of Batman, and Batman's trying to catch up and stop him from committing all these crimes, but Bruce can't catch up to him because Riddler is so smart. And that's the main thing that I love they're doing with this, is that they're showing Riddler is smarter than Batman. I think people forget that sometimes, and sometimes it's not done properly, but Riddler is smarter than Batman. But the thing is that Riddler's arrogance and his fatal flaw is that, one, the answer has to be able to be found somewhere, and two, he has to have an audience. And that arrogance and that flaw is what Batman takes advantage of, makes Batman stop the Riddler. So in this scene, though, it just perfectly encapsulates that, first of all, Riddler is quite literally on top of Batman. He's above him, smarter than him, above him, ahead of him. And Batman is just helpless, far away. He can't get to him, because I'm sure what's going to happen here is he's going to spot the Riddler, and that's when that car is going to come in, and this new puzzle is going to start. And that's pretty much it. One small thing is that if you go back, listen to it for yourselves, on the end of that trailer, you can hear Paul Dano's Riddler laugh. It sounds maniacal and terrifying. I hear the word terrifying a lot, but I'm so excited. I want a terrifying Riddler. I want a Riddler who is scary, has sort of anarchy, Riddler, and also more like actual real life, like a Zodiac kind of a feel to it. And that's what we're getting with this interpretation. I cannot wait. And what I love most about this trailer, and really all the footage in general for the marketing of this movie, is it has a sort of fourth wall breaking mentality that the people of Gotham don't know anything about the Riddler. He's this mysterious serial killer. But we, the audience, we don't know anything about the main villain of this movie. We've seen so little footage. We actually haven't even seen footage of Maroni or Falcone either. But we have seen next to nothing of the Riddler. This is actually the most we've actually seen of him. And they're keeping this villain shrouded in just darkness, and we don't know anything about him, and I love that fact. And I think it makes this movie that much more interesting because we want to learn more about him, but I really hope that they stick to it and don't tell us too much more. We found out a lot here, but then again, it's because I'm crazy and I analyze every single frame of this trailer, but like the average person isn't going to do that, and they're just going to be like, oh wow, Riddler looks creepy. I want to see that movie. So I'm loving this. Now, if we get any more Batman stuff, I will of course be covering it, but I also cover Star Wars, DC, and Marvel. I cover anything nerdy. So if you like that stuff, I do hope you stick around. Thank you so much for watching this video. Tell me in the comments what your favorite part of the trailer was. I love talking to people about Batman. I will do it for days, so I do hope you do that. And thank you again for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.